In this bonus learning objective, we're going to revisit a previous learning objective about domain and range, and now we're going to make that to inverses. All right, so just a quick review. Domain is all the inputs, it's all the x values you put into your function. Range is the outputs, all the y values you get out of your function. All right, so that's domain and range. But what should the relationship between the domain and range of a function and its inverse be? So just think about our original function. We have this kind of arbitrary domain. All the things we're putting in, our function, f, let's just call it f for function, goes and we get some values, the range, out. All right, so we're putting in some things, we're getting out some things. But what do we know about the inverse? The inverse just does my original function in reverse. So I just reverse this arrow. That's going to be my inverse function. Well, now I just change my perspective. What are the things that are going into my inverse? It's this red blob, so now this is going to be the domain of my inverse function. What are the things I'm getting out? Well, it's where the arrow is going. It's the range of my inverse function. As you can see the relationship, the things I put in to my original, well, it's the opposite. It's the things I get out of my inverse. The things I get out of my inverse, get out of my original, is the things I put into my inverse. All right, so they're the exact same values. I'm just switching which one's domain and which one's range, because all that changes with a function in its inverse is which one's x and which one's y. All right, so let's find the domain and range of the inverse function of inverse of the following function. So let's start off with reviewing domain and range for the original function. All right, my original domain, it's all the x values I hit. So I hit all the x values here, and then I stop. So my domain is my x values, which are bigger than -3 and less than +6. All right, that's all the x values of those points. My range, I do the same thing, but now I think about y values. So I think about the y values I'm hitting. I get all the y values from -2 up to 1. All right, so I have this kind of strip of my x values between -3 and 6, and that strip of my y values from -2 to 1. All right, that's my original function. So what are the domain and range of the inverse function? Well, I basically just change these. For my original, I get these. For my inverse, I'm going to get my domain is -2, less than x, less than 1. So I just change that to there. And my range is -3. Is this going to go to y? Is that going to 6? I put that there. That's all you have to do. Really, it's just a question of what is the domain and range of the original. You have to remember how to do that from a previous unit. And then just change where the d and r are, basically. And so here's one for you to try on your own. What are the domain and range of the inverse of this function? And you should get something like this. So we're looking at our original function. Our x values are in this strip between 1 and 3. Our y values are in that strip from 0 to 4. All right, then we just change them to make the domain and range of the inverse. All right, so for this bonus objective, to demonstrate your understanding, you have to do a skill check. And the skill check is going to be a single function. You got to determine its inverse's domain and range. But you can see how we just did it. Basically, just determine the original domain and range and just flip them to get to the inverse.